I'm entering Golden Demon, and today I'll take you along the journey of custom building and resculpting a miniature, basing my entire project of a legendary Warhammer artwork. So buckle up, this will be me pushing myself to the extreme limits to make the most awesome thing that hopefully once and for all will grant me the Golden Demon. To win a Golden Demon is every mini painter's wettest dream. Fame, no money, and eternal glory will be granted to those few who manage to lift the Golden Demon atop their head at the end of the weekend. However, winning one isn't just picking up your paintbrush, painting a mini in an evening, and then expecting to win.
So Lucas, if that's not what you do, what's your plan?
Well, my main entry for this Golden Demon will be this hugely converted Lord of Plagues, hugely inspired, yes Steve, stolen from this awesome artwork made by Helge C. Balzer. And to start this journey, I got myself the Lord of Plagues box and just went to town. And as with all miniatures, you need to start by building the mini. And as you might see here, the mini and the artwork doesn't quite frankly match. Cutting off all the parts that I did not need to create the desired pose. Pieces of the legs, arms, and more. This, however, turned out to be way more than I initially thought. First of all, because the mini is almost as old as I am, and secondly, I just thought it would be way easier to make the desired parts rather than trying to find them from other kits. And as the massive genius I am, of course I managed to build the entire rest of the mini off camera. Smart one. And as always, I use this massive perfect armature wire to connect all the bits and also just to have something to sculpt on later. Now let's move on to the base. In the international, super big Golden Demon circles, there's been talk for the past 20 years that you don't really have to make the perfect base. You should just put all the focus on the mini itself and make it look really cool and have a super boring, ugly base. However, lately we believe that has changed for the better. With more and more uniquely sculpted bases and epic pieces, I feel like I too have to make something grand, something epic to help me stand out in the competition. And of course, there's no real wrong answers here. You can do whatever you find to be the most pretty, but me personally, I've always had this soft spot for creating this centered base with a bit of black on the plinth shining through. I just think it feels really stylistic and just really helps the piece read as artwork. But that also brings us to the second thing we need to tackle, the plinth. I know that a lot of you guys out there might not be able to afford a complete bucket filled with plinths, and you might also think it's a bit too difficult to make them out of wood. Sure, there are a lot of manufacturers that do awesome looking plinths, but up here where we live, they're quite hard to get a hold of. The only real option is to either order from the UK and pay a shitload of cookies, or to buy the uneven quality ones from Green Stuff World. And since you know that I don't have any cookies, ordering from the UK isn't an option. The answer to all your prayers is PVC pipe. Simply getting some plumbing pipe from your local hardware store, cutting it to the desired shape, and then by attaching some plastic card with good plastic cement, you're pretty much good to go. A bit of sanding around the edges to make it flush is all you need. Depending on the pipe you find, you might want to sand the entire thing to get the paint to stick a bit better. As the plinth took shape, I could finally put my basing plans in motion. Starting off by stacking some cork sheets to get the rough shape, then covering them with epoxy putty and sculpting the rest. Using various different silicone tools, I block out the main shape of the rocks. Then to add some small textures here and there, I decided to dab a piece of cork bark against the clay. And honestly, this just did wonders. It feels just like completely perfect rocks. Just creating these small dents and imperfections. Of course, this is something you can add with the paintbrush, but I felt like this would elevate the piece to the next level. And something to keep in mind when doing these sculpted bases is to really make the feet feel connected to the base, not just like something standing or floating on top of the rocks. We don't want the Frodo and Sam running into Mount Doom effect. And this is not an excuse to be super messy or just not care or anything like that. I just really like the feeling of the feet being super flat against the surface, which is in way honesty the easiest way to get when you actually sculpt the base. Now moving up from the base, it was time to fill out the remaining missing body parts. Still using our favorite clay epoxy sculpt, just filling in some of the areas and starting to sculpt. I put a lump of clay and then gently move things around and create the shapes with the silicone tool. And as always, in this step, there's a lot of going back and forth until you reach the desired shape. And sometimes you might not even know what the desired shape is until you've started sculpting. And the first thing I did was to focus on the general body parts, just getting those shapes correct with the folds and everything. And once the parts were closing to done, I could start adding these pusgoils, these grooves, creaks, and just gnarly looking bits that Nurgle truly love. And while I continue sculpting on this bad boy, let me talk about this week's sponsor, Into the AM. If you guys have watched any of our videos the past 4 years, you know that me and Emil love Into the AM's brilliant t-shirts. Lately, we've been falling in love even more with these simpler designs featuring the small print in the front and the large one in the back. And right now, Into the AM has also released this entire collection of fabulous shirts and flannel shirts that are perfect for this autumn fall time. And right now, if you want to look as stylish as me and Emil, go over to Into the AM, where you can pick up 3 of these amazing graphic tees for just $61. And if you follow our link in the video description, you get an additional 10% off your entire purchase, which means even cheaper. So if you want to look stylish for this autumn/fall season, make sure to head over to Into the AM, get yourself some t-shirts, maybe some flannel shirts, use our link. Now let's get back to sculpting. We just can't stress this enough on this channel, but this entire process was just so fun and bearable thanks to the epoxy putty. And once I was closing in to done with the main body, I had to tackle the guts. By rolling out small sausages of Tamiya putty and then cutting them to shape, I added each layer of the guts, then gently put some folds and textures in there with the same round silicone tool. Here, as always, it's nice to take things easy and slow, making each gut separately. Once the first layers were done, I went back to my old trusted friend epoxy and added some torn bits around the edges of the guts. And after fiddling around, finishing all the last details, we have something that looks like this. And with some magic priming, it looks like this. Normally, when doing something for a competition, I would work out what colors to use and map everything out in advance. In this case, I already had all that sorted in the reference image. Of course, I'm gonna try to add my own touch to this piece and just not steal everything from Helge, but the general colors, the lighting, all of that I will steal. So if we take this photo to Photoshop, we can easily, by using the color select tool, look through this image and decide what colors to use. This is a great tool for you guys to use when breaking down images and analyzing art, and can help you even though you're not painting a golden demon piece.
And speaking of colors, sorry for interrupting with a shameless self-plug. I know, 2 sponsored bits in a video, maybe a bit much, but hear us out. We're releasing a paint set together with Vallejo. It's actually 3 of them with all the paints that Lucas and I use on a daily basis. It's coming out in about 2 weeks. We've opened up a waitlist for this and the wet palette, and of course the upcoming Infinity 2024. So if you want to be part of that release, make sure to sign up to our waiting list. That's it, back to Golden Demon.
when it now finally comes to actually painting the competition piece, it's rather hard to give you guys a clear step-by-step guide on how to approach everything. But my general advice that I try to follow myself is to finish one area at a time, working section by section, bit by bit, through your artwork. So in this case, I'll start by painting the largest area, which on this mini is the skin. When painting the skin, I obviously wanted to stay true to the artwork. But just like with everything else in this piece, I also want to add my own touch to it. And to do both, I started with a base coat of a dark green. Then moving my way up, working with brighter greens for the highlights. And in this piece, I'll focus on 3 different light sources. One warm main light shining from slightly above, a second slightly cooler light that will shine from the back, and a third and final one, super cool blue light coming from the bottom left, lighting up all the edges. And to get my own touch on the mini and get my style in there, I'm making sure to add a lot of textures, doing this by painting these lines and shapes going from the wounds and rotten areas. Then by applying different colors through glazing, I can easily switch up the feeling and make the skin feel rotten or dying. Once I finally started feeling quite done with the major skin parts, I could start moving on to the metallics. And of course, we're not gonna teach you everything you need to know about NMM in this video, but luckily for you, we've made several videos in the past tackling deep dives into NMM for you to follow. Go check them out. When moving on to the metallics, there's always this debate, should you do non-metallic metal or true metallic metal? And my advice for painting a mini for a painting competition, I would always go with the one you feel more comfortable with. And if that is NMM or TMM, doesn't really matter, as long as you can make the best outcome for your mini. And for me, since I'm completely delusional, I'll of course do NMM for this entire piece. But jokes aside, the reason why I'm doing NMM on this piece instead of TMM is so that I can fully control the lighting throughout the entire piece, being able to use the same theme lights that I'm using for the rest of the mini in the metallic parts. And once the metallics were up to a nice standard, it was time to move on to some of the other details. Now, the last thing to tackle is the base. Every once in a blue moon, Emil actually has a good idea. And
every time.
Not even close to every time. And this time he said, "Hey Lucas, why don't you paint the base similar to the way you painted your Black Templars?" And I was like, damn, I just had a great idea. What if I paint them the same way as my Black Templars? I don't know if it's gonna look good, but I feel confident in painting that style. So brown bases, here we go. Starting off with a dark brown, working my way up to a brighter reddish brown, then adding more and more sunny skin tone to the reddish brown on smaller and smaller surfaces. To create the same blue light that I added on the Mini, I then mixed the dark brown with some light blue, only applying it to the areas that's pointing towards the same angle as the light on the Mini. Okay, so I started this entire project all the way back in April, and I managed to be super productive, and in about 5 days I managed to build, sculpt and start painting on the Mini. Then May came and I decided for some brilliant reason to start my Black Templars army to go and win a Best in Show, which fortunately enough I did, but it also meant that I had to put this project on ice. And then once May was over, June came and we had to prep videos for our summer vacation, which meant once again I had to put this project on ice. Then July came and finally the summer vacation. I was gonna have so much time to paint, but turns out I didn't even pick up the paintbrush once in 4 weeks, which meant I once again put this project on ice. But then sadly, the vacation was over and it was back to the grind. I came into the office and bam! Emil just blindsided me and told me, "Hey Lucas, we're painting this massive orc army. You've agreed to this, you signed the prenup, everything." And I was like, what the hell? This once again meant that I had to put my Golden Demon project on ice. In retrospect, I am really happy that I started early, because life oftentimes comes in between you and painting a competition piece. So just setting yourself up for success and allowing you for taking more time than you might think is just really great. I still have about 10% left to finish on this Mini, but I'll let him rest for a bit and just make sure to finish it before SN. So with that said, I think it's finally time for a grand 90% done reveal. And guys, I really think this grand reveal and I deserve a few likes and maybe even a subscribe for all of the hard work that I put into this project. I do really like and love how this project turned out, and I can't really remember the last time that I painted something that I truly, fully feel pleased with, and just something that I managed to push myself through and actually finish it. And guys, don't forget, stay massively tuned for Emil's video like this, and maybe if we're lucky and you guys give me enough cookie likes, I might get to do one another, because who else wouldn't love to make another stressful Golden Demon entry? That would be freaking lit. Just don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because otherwise you might miss the entire thing. Massive thanks to this week's sponsor, Into the AM. Do make sure to go check them out. The link is in the video description. And last but not least, a huge, massive, gadonkagus thanks to our amazing patrons. Without you guys, we would not be able to do any of this, and especially a huge thanks to our top donors. With that said, have a nice day. Bye bye!